In October 2024, an isolated upper-level depression stalled over eastern Spain. In a matter of hours, it dumped more than 700 liters of rain per square meter on the province of Valencia. Local river systems and ravines couldn't hold that volume. Water rapidly breached their concrete walls, turning neighborhood streets into violent, uncontrollable torrents. The force of the water swept up everything in its path, crushing thousands of vehicles against each other and completely paralyzing the region's transportation infrastructure. Walls of twisted metal, mud, and debris stacked 2 stories high blocked all access to entire neighborhoods. Local emergency systems quickly collapsed under the sheer scale of the destruction. When professional services vanish and communications go dark, human instinct kicks in. People immediately move toward the disaster zone to help. Within hours, over 20,000 citizens descended on the hardest-hit municipalities. They arrived on foot, riding bicycles, and driving agricultural tractors. They showed up to dig out their communities with whatever they had on hand. Thousands of people attempted to push back feet of heavy mud, using nothing more than household brooms and plastic buckets. But this massive influx of bodies had a secondary effect. They inadvertently clogged the few remaining viable access routes, physically blocking ambulances and heavy clearing machinery from getting through. Professional emergency teams, deployed to execute water rescues, were suddenly forced to act as traffic cops, trying to manage crowd control for thousands of civilians. It created a situation where unfiltered goodwill actively delayed the distribution of medical supplies and logistical aid during the most critical hours of the crisis. This scenario is what disaster management experts call the paradox of solidarity. This diagram breaks down exactly how the paradox works. At the top, you have the initial phase, a massive, unstructured influx of thousands of well-meaning citizens rushing into a highly localized disaster zone. Then, all that energy hits the municipal bottleneck. Small and medium-sized local governments simply do not have the massive human resources protocols required to process and deploy a crowd of that size. As a result, the output isn't a coordinated relief effort. It's a chaotic trickle of duplicated tasks, severely reduced operational efficiency, and a complete breakdown of safety perimeters. Citizens working without biological hazard training, steel-toed boots, or proper safety gear end up exposing themselves to extreme physical and environmental risks, creating even more patients for a strained medical system. The volunteers are never the problem. The failure comes entirely from the lack of a rapid coordination architecture to safely process them. In Valencia, when official protocols failed, citizens self-organized to solve the bottleneck out of pure necessity. They built decentralized digital platforms from scratch. Using interactive maps populated with specific status pins, they paired real-time victim needs, like mud clearing or water delivery, directly with available helping hands. Specialized networks also emerged. Groups of private off-road vehicle owners used real-time GPS coordination to bypass the blockages, transporting surgeons and dialysis patients when standard ambulances couldn't get through. These digital stopgaps prove a vital concept. Volunteers offer incredible surge capacity, but only when their energy is strictly task-matched and spatially coordinated. This lesson from Spain serves as a critical warning for regions that cannot afford to absorb operational delays, specifically Central America and the Caribbean. This is a region defined by compounding multi-hazard realities. It sits directly on top of tectonic plates, at the edge of the Caribbean hurricane belt. Events like 1998's Hurricane Mitch proved how quickly extreme weather can engulf entire urban landscapes, completely crippling national infrastructure and devastating regional economies. Today, those climate threats are accelerating, increasingly targeting marginalized communities forced to build in high-risk coastal and mountainous zones. In a region already battling high poverty, a delayed emergency response caused by disorganized crowds acts as a fatal risk multiplier. The most effective defense mechanism the region has developed relies on intense preparation before a disaster strikes, early warning systems, driven directly by the community. Local emergency committees, or CODELs, work year-round to organize civil society. They map out local threats, identify vulnerabilities, and define safe evacuation routes before the rain falls. This framework illustrates these systems. Integrating volunteers into pre-existing structures provides clear functions that guarantee individual safety. This safety scales up, transforming chaotic civic energy into structured operations aligned with emergency services. The ultimate outcome is territorial resilience, drastically speeding up community recovery. Appropriately channeled citizen solidarity acts as the ultimate shield of civil protection. It takes the raw instinct to help and turns it into a disciplined, life-saving asset.